Hello there everybody, I'm Mr. Game & Pie, and this is Let's Play Crash Purple, the crossover between Crash Bandicoot and Spyro the Dragon. Now this is a pretty interesting game. It's very hard to compare it with much of anything, to be honest. In any case, here we have Crash's nemesis, Neo Cortex, and he's teamed up with Spyro's nemesis, Ripto. I'm pretty sure that Spyro has a lot of enemies in his series that act as the main villain, but Ripto's the one that they're going with. Not really familiar with the Spyro series, and admittedly, I'm not really that familiar with the Crash series either. Regardless, here we have Aku Aku getting ready to, well, tell everybody the news. They're taking over the world, and they need a heroic figure. But all they have is Crash. Little do they know that they actually have a secret helper. And with that said, this isn't just Let's Play Crash Purple. You see, there's another game that's related to this. Everyone, I would like to welcome you to Let's Play Spyro Orange, the Cortex Conspiracy. Yes, this game is split up into two halves. One, Crash Purple, is where you play as Crash. The other, Spyro Orange, is where you play as Spyro. These games have completely separate levels, completely separate worlds, and there's mini-games. In fact, that's the main point of the game. It's a lot of mini-games connected by platforming areas. Now, Crash's platforming areas are more similar to his regular ones. It's just 2D instead of 3D. Spyro, on the other hand, as far as I recall, I don't remember him ever really having 2D sections. Regardless, his platforming is still in 2D. This doesn't necessarily work all the time. In fact, as a whole, Crash's version is definitely the better version to obtain, which I'll be explaining as we go along. Anyway, it's time to get into some gameplay. And the first gameplay we're going with is Crash! Alright, so, as Coco explains here, you need to get the crystals to go from one world to another. This is pretty standard Crash fare. There are 5 mini-games in each area, and 5 purple crystals to obtain. Now you might be thinking, oh man, it's Crash Purple, so obviously the purple crystals are a really new thing, right? Well, no, if you're any familiar with the Crash series at all, Crash obtains purple crystals in like every game except maybe like the first one. But that's not what we're going for here first. You see, these videos will be working in a little bit of a different way than normal. For each odd-numbered video, I'm going to be exploring the overworlds of each area and playing the special minigames within them. For example, here we have a bonus game in Crash's game where we can obtain a crystal. Crystals aren't needed to get from one world to another, but they will be required for getting to the final world. So I'm just going to be collecting them as I go along. To obtain a crystal, you have to break every box in a level. These appear in the bonus areas and in certain mini-games. Not all mini-games have boxes in them, but when they do, make sure to break them all to get a crystal out of it. Or a gem, a little white gem. The purple ones are the crystals. Now to open up the mini-games, you'll need a certain number of Wumpa Fruit. Spin the correct amount on the area, and you'll unlock the minigame. And you can play it as much as you want after that. This is different in Spyro's game, which I'll be getting to here in a moment. The second minigame, or the bonus game of Crash's area, is right here at the beginning. But hey, I haven't mentioned what I'm going to be doing in the other even videos, have I? Well, basically, those are the videos where I'll be going through the minigames of the areas that I explored in the last world. But hey, Crash has been getting a lot of gameplay, so let's show off Spyro some. Each hub world is broken up into 2 sections. We just saw the first section of Crash's first hub world, and now here's the first section of Spyro's. For Crash to get from his first area to his second world, he'll need to spin some Wumpas to get there. For Spyro to get from his first area to his second area, he'll have to play a button-mashing minigame. For those who don't know, I'm terrible at button mashing. Good enough to get through anything in these games, but Yeah, in general, not so good at it. Now here are Spyro's mini-games. He has various magical gates. He has to spin gems if he ever wants to play them. Unlike Crash, who just has to spin some Wumpas to get there in first place. Now here we have Moneybags, and Moneybags has various shops in the world where you can get cards. Some shops, like this one, are places where you can just buy cards, but other places have various mini-games where you can win them. There are a lot of cards in the game, and I'm not going to be collecting them all. And you can get them in a variety of ways, but I'll be going a little more over that here in a minute. So yeah, Spyro's area has 2 mini-games to play. But hey, after getting through this little button-mashing minigame, let's check up on what Crash is doing. Ah yes, Crash has entered deeper within the Wumpa Forest. There are a lot of plants trying to kill him. And hey, look at this guy. He's Blinky. And he doesn't seem to like Crash all that much. He seems to have some sort of dragon friend. Wonder who he could be referring to. Yes. Anyway, thanks to Crash's double jump, he can explore very high areas. And underneath him right now is a card, which I forget to grab right now. But in a moment we'll see me grab it. Like, later. We'll have a flashback, except it's more like a flash forward. But we'll do that after playing this minigame. Each world for Crash has a button-mashing minigame as well, except it's not required. It's just an optional thing that this character Crunch has you do. Crunch has been in the Crash series for a while now, and this is his only role here. Anyway, flash forward! Here we go. So yes, the card is down there, making sure everybody knows where we are. Then just drop down, and you get the Wumpa Jungle card? That's right, each world has a card associated with it. You find these cards just sort of laying around in the area, because that is a way you can obtain cards. Some cards will just be found through exploration, through finding them, while other cards will have to be bought from the shops, and other cards will actually have to be won from minigames, which are mostly luck-based. Now there's a card down there, so let's see if we can go grab it. And we can't, apparently. Let's try that again. It's the Fire Breather card. Cards that you find laying around will often be related to the area that you find them. For example, there's a Fire Breather I'm just passing. And we found the Wumpa Jungle card in the Wumpa Jungle. And hey, Moneybags has found his way into Crash's world, somehow. Moneybags is a Spyro character, but that, well, doesn't stop him from trying to get Wumpa Fruit from Crash in this game. Once again, we have a place where we can buy trading cards. Now here's an interesting thing. Take a look at all the cards here. We leave, and then we come back. A completely different set of trading cards. Now each trading card has a set value. Here we have a blue card, which says it's the lowest. Green cards are higher, yellow cards are even higher, then there's orange cards, and then red cards are the highest. Both characters start out with a set of red cards, which are associated with some of the main characters in the series. Crash has some of the characters from his, Spyro has some of the characters from his. However, for the most part, each character can only get cards pertaining to their series. Crash can only get Crash cards, Spyro can only get Spyro cards. There are a few exceptions. Both characters can obtain cards of the lowest priority. Oh, and there's the gate to the end of the area. But in general, if you want to get all the cards, you're going to have to get both games and do like some trading and stuff. Now here, we have another card, a frog. Isn't that nice? Anyway, we've seen everything in Spyro's area, so let's check what Spyro is up to. Oh, it's Spark, telling us that we can go backwards and check on previous areas if we've missed something. And Hunter telling us how to destroy things. Particularly, he's telling us that we can do our head bash, which is basically a ground pound. So yeah. Now Spyro, unlike Crash, doesn't start out with all of his abilities off the front. He can jump, and he can head bash, and he can breathe fire. And that's it. Later on he gets a couple more abilities, but, well, we'll get to there whenever we get to there. Now, just a moment ago, we passed the ending gate. That gate has 5 different symbols on it, and each time we beat a minigame, a new symbol will be highlighted. You see, each minigame has an associated symbol with it. It'll be seen at the very top of the gate. And that's how you progress in the game. Beat all the minigames, beat the boss of the area, and then bam. Also, here we have our buddy telling us about a strange orange creature. It seems like we're having a severe infestation. Now, like I said, you won't always just be buying the cards off this guy. Sometimes you'll need to do a luck-based minigame. At least it's kinda luck-based. Depending on where you stop the meter up at the top, that determines how strong you spin the wheel. Although there is still some random chance to it. You can kind of manipulate it, but it's not exactly, well, reliable. Alright, now we've seen all the gates except for one at this point. 4 out of 5, basically. And here's where we're gonna see some of the bad controls of the game. Look at those slippery controls just fling me off the edge of the stage. Of course. You see, Spyro, later on, will obtain the ability to double jump. This is incredibly helpful, considering that his controls are very slippery and somewhat unpredictable. This isn't a problem that Crash has, and he's the guy that starts with a double jump. It's just a Spyro thing. I'm not really sure why they did this. Whenever it comes down to it, at this point in time, both Crash and Spyro were owned by Vivendi Visions. Of course, they started off being owned by different people, and to this day I believe they're owned by different people at this point. But at this point, they own both characters. Spyro and Crash have had a very parallel history. And so Vivendi Visions was like, hey guys, let's make a crossover between these guys. But, yeah, apparently they definitely preferred Crash more. Crash has the better controls, Crash has the better worlds, and he definitely has the better minigame selection. Regardless, we'll be seeing some of that next time. Until then, I've been Mr. Game & Pie.